revered Swami Prabhanandaji Maharaj, Swami Suhitanandaji Maharaj, all revered Maharajas on stage and in the audience, all Brahmachari Maharajas, the distinguished volunteers and eminent members of the gathering, the guests. Right from the morning, we have had discussions over here, and in this session particularly, on the role of volunteers in Ramakrishna movement. Now, when I think of the subject, I tend to borrow expression from the corporate sector, where people talk about front end and back end. I feel that in the Ramakrishna movement, the back end is formed by or constitutes of the monks and the brahmacharis. The back end means the people, as you know, the people who are in charge of formulating policies, talking about ideals and execution. And the front end, those who are in direct contact with the public. So, as my previous speaker was saying, in the front end, we will recall that in the front end we have the paid workers and the volunteers. So the volunteers, again, to borrow expressions from the corporate world, necessarily form the very important part of the front end. And that way, the role, as this session topic goes, the role of a volunteer is to uphold those ideals, those outlooks, those mindsets for which the back end is working 24/7. So that way, the role of a volunteer is very important and crucial. This front end, I mean the volunteers, they have to keep constant touch with the back end and get necessary advice and directions so as to communicate with the general public. When I say general public, possibly I make a mistake, because Ramakrishna movement never says general public. Ramakrishna movement talks about the expression of the master, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. So, we are not to think of them as individuals XYZ, not a crowd at Kashipur on 1st January, let us say, not as general public, but very much as Shiva, manifesting in the form of so-called quote-unquote general public. So that is the primary role, I think, of a volunteer. As Swamiji has said, be and make. So to look at people like that, and in the same fashion, to give them a feel for which the back end stands for. And there we are reminded again of Sri Ramakrishna, who says that you must not make any distinction. So the volunteer's role, again, in keeping with the words of the master, is not to make any distinction between people based on religion or caste or creed. That is Sri Ramakrishna's, one of the cornerstones of his teaching. So when we are dealing with people, Shiva, we must not make any distinction, save and except two classes. And these are the women and the poor. As Sri Ramakrishna says, what a beautiful expression. We were moved by these expressions ever since our childhood, that the one who is in the temple is the one who has given birth to this body and is the same one who is presently massaging my feet. If that is the outlook, then we cannot say just women folk. Yes, necessarily Divine Mother incarnate. That is what the back end stands for or tries to convey to the modern world. And the poor people, as Swamiji says. So we were saying that all are same, but little special attention, maybe they have been deprived for ages. The second one is the poor people, about whom Swamiji means to say that if you serve the poor, then, or if you save poor India, then you necessarily save Mother India. Talking about myself, when I had the opportunity of joining as a volunteer in the Ramakrishna movement that way, at Udbodhan in 1990, sometimes in 1990 when I was a student. So I joined that there as a volunteer. And right from the initial days, I recall that I could identify one fascinating spirit, and that is everyone is striving to make things better. which is so different from a large section of the other, the society in general, where people quite often tend to think that things are becoming more and more negative, things are heading towards getting doomed. But here, in the Ramakrishna movement, people are thinking that the Patrika, the journal will be better, all our works will be better. In other words, people are dreaming for a better tomorrow. This is a sharp contrast with the other sections. That yesterday may have been good or bad, but tomorrow will be better. This is again in line with Swamiji's wonderful declaration that ancient India was great, but the India that is coming, future India, will be greater. So as a volunteer till date, I relish these ideas, and also I relish the view of a volunteer. So many veterans are there and sitting over here also. We never think that this job is something substantial. I'm working as an assistant to a monk or a brahmachari Maharaj, or some small job. No, nothing big, medium, small, but an ideal volunteer, his role, I have seen this, that he thinks that he is serving Sri Ramakrishna, or to be precise, Sri Ramakrishna movement, or to be more precise, Sri Ramakrishna Bhava Ganga. Maybe many of your attention will be drawn to the beautiful picture on stage, Sri Ramakrishna Bhava Ganga. That is how a volunteer thinks, that his role is to pay obeisance, pay homage to this Bhava Ganga in whatever small, medium or big capacity that it might be. And today I am absolutely fascinated. I started off by saying that the expression of the corporate world, but here is a difference from the corporate world. The Belur Math authorities have thought of assembling this front end at the headquarters of the movement, at the headquarters of Sri Ramakrishna. This is different from the language and the style of corporate sector. So here we get the warmth of feeling that yes, all of us have assembled together. The back end and front end in a way has mingled in a nice way. And this is a miniature representation of Mother India. To end with, when I say miniature representation of Mother India, I am reminded of Sri Shankaracharya, who hails from the south, and wrote so many beautiful hymns, including one on Ganga, the river meandering for most of his course in northern India. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange. In that stotram, near the end, Shankaracharya says, Varamiha nire kamatho minah, kingba tire sharatakshinaha, athagavyutau shwapacho dino napunar dure nrupati kulinaha. Oh Mother Ganga, it's nice that if I be even a fish or a tortoise in your water, or on your bank a tiny lizard, or from your bank within 2 miles, even if I live as a chandala, but it's not good to live away from you as a wealthy king. I feel that that could be the essential role of a volunteer, the essential feeling of a volunteer, that somehow we love to remain associated with this movement in small or medium or big capacity, whatever. We want to remain associated with this movement, with this Bhava Ganga. And we don't want to remain away from it as a quote-unquote VIP in the society. So that way, when a volunteer thinks in that way, I think his role meets with absolute fulfillment, and this voluntary service transfigures itself into a true upasana. Thank you.